Hey everybody, how's it going? Bladesofgod here from Hammer Bros Gaming, coming at you with our newest Gears Tactics. There it is. Achievement Guide. This achievement guide is for the Immortal Legion achievement, which tasks us with completing the entire game on insane difficulty without losing a single unit. If you end up having a unit die, don't worry, you can restart from either the last checkpoint or restart the mission. Doesn't invalidate the achievement at all. You just need to make sure that you finish your last mission without having lost a unit. Just as another reminder, you don't go down but not out. This isn't one of the lower difficulties. You're playing on insane for this achievement, so if your health drops to 0, your unit is dead. There is no reviving them. So, this video itself, it is going to be covering the first side mission, which is a non-main mission called Aldair Control. I might be mispronouncing that. I think it's Aldair. Aldair Control, which requires you to hold 2 positions for a set amount of time to gather supplies, and then we're going to be covering Act 1-5 as well. This is a longer video, so grab yourself a drink or a snack. I will be putting in time code so you can jump to any one of the parts that you're going to need. You don't have to watch the whole thing. But if you're finding this video or this guide series helpful, please consider leaving a like on the video. Please also consider subscribing to the channel and joining our Hammer Nation. Become a Hammer Bro. We would love to have you on board. We're greatly appreciative of you taking your time to check out our video. But that's enough of me yakking. Let's get right into the video, guys, because I know that's what you're really here to see. Alright, everybody. Let's jump right into the real reason we're here. So, before we get to the actual mission, we're going to take a look at the skills we have. I know I showed this in the past videos, but in case this is your jumping in point, you got a quick look there at what Gabe had equipped for skills. He has a regulation armor for 10 evasion, so I'm not going to swap out for a lower evasion rate, just like I'm not going to swap out for a lower evasion rate on his boots. Michaela, who we just acquired after the last mission, however, has nothing. She has an engineering shirt, so I'm going to give her the ranger kit, which gives her blitz and evasion. So blitz means if you don't take a shot, you have a 30% chance of getting an action point at the beginning of your next turn. And I'm going to give her the ranger treads, which gives her a half meter extra movement and 5% evasion. So, looking at her skill tree, with Michaela and all of my snipers, I always run to the right side, focusing mostly on the hunter path. I'm going to take quick fingers or fast fingers, because that's the first one you need to take. And then I'm actually going to take active reload for the damage boost. And from there, it's going to be a straight shot up to ultimate shot. The reason we're doing this is because we want to maximize our sniper's critical damage and the amount of shots they're able to take per turn. So second chance will be helpful. Critical overwatch will be helpful, but it's not something you need to spend a skill point on early on. So like I said, we're going to take active control at the very beginning with our first 2 skill points. That's going to give us, if we reload on an empty magazine, it gives us a 25% damage boost for 2 turns or until we reload again. So like I said, we're heading up here into this hunter path. There's a lot of good skills to be had, so you might debate depending on your skill play style, which you want to take. But we're going to jump over to Sid here. We're going to give him the light barrel because he had not just the standard barrel equipped, and some skills are better than none. And then jumping over to Marcella, we're going to look at her skills. With my scouts, I always run, again, the right side of the tree, the skill tree. I like to have the longer cloak and free cloak and all that for my scavenger run missions, but also double shot on the left is very useful. But we're going to focus primarily on the right side. So we're going to take sprint. We like stalker, but I'm actually going to also take the frag grenade mastery, and the reason I'm doing that is because while I run my scouts to do a lot of distance work, a lot of range for the scavenger runs, I also run them as my grenade mains. So frag grenade mastery just makes sense. Looking at the equipment here, I'm going to swap out for a power barrel for her. And you could see as I'm talking, I'm just going through and just changing out the gear that I got after the last mission. Something else to keep in mind is that you can always recruit troops between your missions, and it's a great idea. This is a great example. I had nothing to upgrade Michaela's sniper rifle with, the long shot, but I recruited a soldier, and now I have a better mag, scope, and barrel. And I know you're thinking, Blades, why don't you just take the guy that you recruited? Well, the reason we're doing this is because we're now getting into our side missions. And on your side missions, as you know, I'm assuming you've played on a lower difficulty, you can only deploy each unit once during your side missions. And then once you get to the next main mission, they all refresh. And we want to make sure that if we only have 1 or 2 side missions, that we're deploying all of our primary characters, our main heroes, so they get the most XP possible, because that's going to level them up quicker, and we're going to want them at max level for the final mission of the game, where we have to have all 4 of our primary characters. So you see I swapped out Ramon, my heavy, with Michaela. So I've got Sid, Gabe, Michaela, and Marcella as my squad. So I got a sniper, a support, a scout, and a vanguard for classes. Just to refresh your memory, the control missions give you 2 hard points that you need to hold to get equipment. You need to hold them for a certain number of turns without having any of the enemies in your ring, and you cannot let the enemy units remain in the ring without having an allied unit in the ring, or else they'll destroy your supplies. If they destroy 5 supplies, it's mission over, and you need to gather, I think it's 10 supplies to win. So it doesn't matter how many enemies you kill, you must capture those supplies in order to win. And we have an optional objective of hold both points for 2 or more consecutive turns. So we need to make sure that we have a unit by themselves, no enemies around, in each ring for 2 consecutive turns to complete that side quest, which is something we're going to do. Like I said in my last video, you want to be trying to get as many of the supply crates or the items as you can, because you want to have as many options as possible for gear. So let's get to the tactics we're actually going to be using in this mission. As you can see, we've got this lovely bridge that divides the map, and it's on higher ground, which is going to give us a better hit percentage and critical rate. So we're going to go ahead and park our newly acquired sniper Michaela right up on this bridge to help deal damage to both the left and right sides of the map. We are also going to have Sid accompany her to help take out anybody who tries to come after her on the bridge. And then I'm going to send Marcella down to the left ring, and I'm sending Gabe down to the right ring. Now, you don't necessarily have to do this. You could switch them up, but I find that this has worked very well for me. There's nothing saying you couldn't, leave Marcella up with Michaela on the bridge and send Sid down to hold the ring. But this is just the method that I use. It's worked quite well for me, so we're going to stick with that as our plan. So we've already gone through a couple of turns here, engaged a couple of enemies, but nothing too severe. We're going to, at this point, move both of our units who are on the right and the left. So we're going to move Gabe and Marcella into the rings and start collecting our gear. We're going to push up to about the halfway point on this bridge with Sid and Michaela. We don't want to go all the way to the end, because more enemies do spawn in at the end of the bridge, and we don't want to give the enemies a free shot on our units. We're going to use the pillars on the bridge as cover for them. And then in these rings, you're going to want to find the best cover you can, depending upon where your enemies are located. You can see they've got the high ground on me right now, so I'm going to use the half cover with Gabe, and then the same thing with Marcella. She doesn't have any enemies on her right now, but you don't want to leave your allied units just standing out in the wind. You want to keep them tucked into cover just to keep their heads down and keep them safe. So here we go. We've got Marcella in one ring holding it down. We've got Gabe in the other ring holding it down. And we've got Michaela and Sid overwatching up top to try to offer fire support to our units on the ground. You can see we've got one rifle drone heading down towards Gabe. He overwatched him, and I've got one heading towards Marcella, and he's overwatching towards her. And now this is when things get interesting. We have a Grenadier and 2 more drones drop off on the right near Gabe, and we're going to have a flight of wretches drop off near Marcella. Now those wretches could do one of 2 things, or one of 3 things actually. They're either going to all focus on Marcella, they're all going to bypass her, or they're going to split. Ideally, you're going to want them all to head towards Marcella, because she can get a grenade in there and take them all out. The worst case scenario is the one that happens, and that's that they sort of split and go different ways. Some of them go towards Gabe, some head towards the bridge, and some go down towards Marcella. Now, it's not a big deal because they are just wretches, but it's still easier to keep them all heading towards Marcella, keep them all bunched up, and just take out the entire lot of them with one grenade. You can see here, we moved on to our next turn as I was explaining that last bit of planning. We used Gabe's saw to take that drone off the board and then duck back into cover. And now we're going to use Marcella to move up. That drone has kind of overwatched all of my cover, all of the area that I can move into. So I'm going to stay just outside his cone of Overwatch, and I'm going to try to throw a frag back here to hit both the Wretch and the drone, and I can just barely get that grenade far enough to do it. It pushes the Wretch back out of the distance that he can get to me and hit me. He could still make it into the ring and stop me from collecting supplies at the end of the turn, but one thing at a time. I downed that drone with the snub, which again, I cannot overstate how important the snub is on Insane. Yes, it doesn't have the high damage as your primary weapon, but it is definitely worth using. Now we're going to see why we have Michaela up on this bridge. You see she's got good line of sight on the enemies on both sides. She took the Wretch out that I damaged using Marcella. We're going to move Sid up a little bit. Again, we're going to use the snub. This time it missed. It doesn't always hit, and sometimes this happens. You get real frustrated because you miss back-to-back shots at 61%. But we're going to take that drone off the board so he doesn't get revived, and now we are out of action points, so we're going to wait and see what the enemy does. I've got an Overwatch with Gabe set up in case any of the Wretches come down, and predictably the drones and the Grenadier are heading in from the right, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to use Michaela on the next turn to start harassing them a little bit. You can see one of the Wretches from that flight of Wretches is heading down towards Marcella, and the rest are going to actually stay a little higher up. They're still in the fog of war. We can't see exactly where they are, but we've got a rough idea that, you know, they're coming this, like, towards our units. So we just keep that in the back of our mind. We know that they're at least a couple of turns away from being able to hit us, so we're not really going to prioritize them right now. I've got Sid in a position where I want to use him to start damaging some enemies and taking them out of the Overwatch because they've got Gabe pretty well hemmed in. So we're going to come up here and we want to start trying to help out Gabe as much as we can because he's got 5 enemies that are trying to close in on him. 2 Wretches, 2 drones, and a Grenadier. And that's a lot. That is a lot to deal with. So we're going to do the best we can right here. You can see I'm kind of cycling through trying to determine which enemy would be the best or the most efficient use of a shot. And I decide that I'm just going to switch over to Marcella and get her set up first while I think. And we just overwatch towards where the Wretches are coming from in case they come down. And it's not totally vital to do that. I don't think the Wretches could have made it into the ring, but we're going to do it just in case. And you see I'm using Gabe here to thin out who I can before I have to make my choice with Michaela and her sniper rifle. I was able to take the 2 Wretches off the board, so now instead of dealing with 5 enemies, we're dealing with 3 heading towards that ring. Sid is going to... I could have used the Overwatch... I'm sorry, not Overwatch. The Disruptive Shot to take one of the Overwatches off of the enemies, but I decide instead I'm going to Overwatch this area and kind of roll the dice and anticipate that the AI is going to have these units charge right around that corner and hopefully disrupt 2 of the 3 of them, which the sniper shot did there very well, disrupted the rifle drone. And unfortunately it doesn't work so well with the Grenadier. He does end up berserking, so his, I can't remember what it's called, but his reflex attack for getting too close to him is now off the board. So I can now take that Grenadier off the board by using Gabe's chainsaw attack. We do have the 2 drones who are still overwatching, so we need to take that out of consideration or out of the equation before I can take that Grenadier off the board. So the way we're going to do this is with our old friend the frag grenade. We're going to huck it down here. Thankfully we have the height advantage to give us a little extra distance, and that's going to kill one of the drones, interrupt the other one, and free Gabe up to be able to get in there, mix it up with the Grenadier, and basically saw him in half. So here we go. And if you're worried, if you're trying to hold the rings for consecutive turns, you can leave the ring during your turn. The only requirement is that you are back inside the ring at the end of your turn to get your side mission or side quest. So I downed that drone. I had Gabe hop back into the ring. And we are just, you know, the right side is pretty well cleared out at this point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have Sid start moving to the left to help out Marcella. we're already over the halfway point as far as collecting. We only need 2 more turns to finish this map. And with most of the enemies being taken care of, we're pretty much in the clear. You see I got 3 drones, 3 wretches down here. And the AI is going to, again, have them advance right down towards Marcella and towards the ring. So I'm going to overwatch through this little gap. I'm going to keep my overwatch cone relatively short to increase the accuracy of my overwatch shots. If you extend it, then they'll trigger the overwatch further away, and that Gnasher has terrible accuracy even up close. So really maximizing your distance, while it sounds like a good idea, pretty much means you're not going to hit the shots with the Gnasher. Unfortunately, you could see some of that insane RNG, 94% hit percentage, and I still missed. So not great right there, but I was able to use Michaela to take another wretch off the board, so that was good. And you see we got another flight of enemies coming in as reinforcements, 2 more drones and another grenadier. We got 2 more supplies, so we need 1 more turn holding these rings to end the mission. I'm going to have Gabe come up here, and I was going to have him execute the drone to give everybody an additional action point, but instead I'm going to have him come up and hop over that cover, so now he has the half cover to use on the other side because the enemy's now dropped in behind him. And of course, you know, I use the snub on this wretch, and he survives with 6 HP, which is just like, yeah, of course you're going to. But whatever the case is, he's off the board now. Marcella is pretty much safe. She doesn't have any enemies in the uncovered part of the map. So we're going to kind of sit here with her in that ring and just not worry about anything. I'm going to do my best with Michaela to thin out the ranks. That's one of the wretches from the original flight of wretches that dropped in earlier in the map. He came all the way down to try to hassle Gabe, but, you know, Michaela took him off the map with 1 shot. So he's no longer an issue. I am going to kill this drone with Gabe just to get the kill and a little bit of additional experience. It's not the most tactically sound use of an action point, but we're pretty much in the clear, like I said. We're going to overwatch with Sid here just to prevent anyone from trying to get into that ring and slow us down or stop us from finishing our mission. The AI actually has the enemies move to the right to head up that staircase and then have 1 head towards Gabe, which I don't know what the logic is, but that's what the AI decided to do. We gained 2 more supplies, boom, boom, and that's it. That is mission complete. So not too bad at all. We're going to skip this cutscene here because we don't need to see them drive off in their APC. And you can see we've got health stabilizers, we got the common cadet chest, we got some crates to open up. So let's pop those open, and then we're going to tackle Act 1-5 next. Unfortunately, none of our units leveled up. We are close on a few, so we should get a couple of levels on the next mission. We also didn't get many cases this round, but we got an accuracy bonus and magazine extension, the Delta straps, which are excellent for Michaela. So we're going to come over here. We're going to give her the stabilizers, which gives her a 3% accuracy bonus while she's in cover, so we'll definitely take that. And then we're going to give her the magazine extension, which means she'll have more shots before she needs to reload, which is great. We will take that as well. And then Marcella, we ended up getting a grip for her Gnasher with a 5% accuracy bonus, which sounds good, but again, we like Disrupt. Disrupt is a good thing. We're keeping Disrupt on all of the weapons that we can get it on, because what Disrupt does is that if you manage to hit an enemy, whether with Overwatch or with standard gunfire, it's going to disrupt the enemy, stop them from advancing, or knock them out of their Overwatch. So it's definitely worthwhile to have. I'm also going to switch out Marcella's gear, her upper armor and her leg armor, to have the Ranger kit, because we want her to be able to have good evasion and good movement. And the reason we do this, like I said, is that I use the scouts for my scavenger runs, and anything that's going to increase their movement range is a good thing. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to actually go in and recruit some troops. I see that my convoy is full, so I actually have to go and release a couple of them. So unfortunately, goodbye to a few of my soldiers. Chum, you're gone. and Buzzkill, which, while I love the nickname, you're gone. And Wolf, I was going to let you go, but the game said, no, I need to have at least 3 people. So instead, I'm going to recruit 2 of you, which I'll recruit the Heavy, and I'll recruit the Vanguard. Then I'll have to go back in. You can see the little top right corner set of my barracks says, hey, you have some equipment, which is good. Get Sid an extended mag, gets him a new scope with more accuracy, but we're going to stick with the crit damage. And then we get a power barrel, which we're definitely going to use with Sid. And that's, you see the little red emblem disappeared, so you know that you've seen or checked all the new gear that you have. And at this point, we're just going to check and see what Firefly has. None of the skills that I really care for, so I'm just going to dump him and go back and recruit our last available troop, which was a support unit, and see if, but we didn't get any additional new equipment for Gabe. So I'm going to swap over to frag grenades just in case I need to use them for whatever reason. Hyun, I guess. I don't know how you pronounce the name. Lightning Frank. There we go. I don't think I'm going to end up using lightning. They do have Empower, which is a good skill to have, but since we're going into a main mission, I'm going to take all of my primaries and probably either my Heavy Ramon or Marcella, because those are my primary units at the moment. So you can see that the squad requirements are Gabe and Michaela, so Sid doesn't have to come with us at this point. And the optional objective is to complete the mission in 15 or less turns, which can be very challenging. I actually don't think that I do complete it in 15. I think I complete it in 16 or 17 turns. So it can be very challenging to do on Insane. So here we go. This is the squad we're going to be running. We got Michaela the Sniper, we've got Support Gabe, we've got Vanguard Sid, and we've got Scout Marcella. This mission, it's not all that bad. It does introduce the sniper enemy, which can be a pain, but not really. Definitely not as big of a pain as the Grenadiers. Seeing as how they like to spot you, or I can't remember if it's spot, pin you, which is when they target you with your laser. They target you with your laser and they don't do anything. As long as you don't move, you don't get shot. And it stops them from shooting it at anyone else. So it's really not that big of a deal to deal with the snipers. The biggest issue is that later in the game, you're going to have snipers that are still in the fog of war that you don't even see, taking shots at your enemies, or at your allies. So you really, really need to make sure that once the snipers are active in the game, that you are constantly in cover. Ideally full cover, but at least half cover with a good angle against where your enemies are located. So let's get into this map. There's 3 cases that you can collect for additional gear. We're going to end up grabbing all 3 because they're not that far out of the way or that well protected. And right at the beginning, there's not many ways that you can go. You can kind of cut through this little garage on our right, but because we're on Insane, I'd rather keep my units stuck together. And you can see we've got 4 wretches that are coming down the path towards us. Not anything to be concerned with. We've got plenty of firepower to take them out. We all have our grenades available and ready to use. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I move Marcella up, toss the frag, take all 3 remaining wretches off the board, and she still has 1 AP left. So we're going to move her up a little bit further, and that'll end her turn. The big thing here is that as you come around this corner, you're going to have more wretches and 3 rifle drones to deal with, and there's not a lot of cover once you get around the corner of this building. There's a couple of destroyed vehicles and a guardrail that you can use for cover, but once the enemies hop over into like right where these wretches are now, there's no cover to really take shots and advance on them. So we've got to depend a lot on our distance work or trying to draw aggro and have the AI move one direction and circling around behind them. And that's the tactic that I prefer to use. You're going to see that I move Sid out back. I'm slowly moving him around to the other side of all of this. It almost looks like a train car or a trolley right in the middle there next to the wretches. Maybe it's a tanker truck. I think it's a tanker truck. I'm going to move Sid behind that and then try to draw the aggro of the rest of the enemies kind of towards where we are now so I can get the enemies in a crossfire. Again, a good tactic on Insane is that you want to utilize your Overwatch and not rush. I realize that we are trying to finish this mission in 15 turns or less, and I realize that I said it's very important to try to get as many of those optional objectives done as possible so you can maximize the amount of loot you get or the amount of gear you have, but it's not worth ruining your entire run and losing a character just because you're trying to rush. So you saw in that last turn, I sat back, I overwatched, and I was kind of letting the enemies come to me. Definitely a legitimate strategy. It makes things a lot easier rather than trying to rush up and then not have a lot of action points to actually deal damage and take the enemies out of commission. You don't want to be engaging enemies if you're not confident that you can thin them out during that turn. And the reason I say this is because the more enemies you engage, the more aggro you draw, the more enemies you're going to have shooting at you, and the higher the chances are you're going to get hit. And on Insane, all it takes usually is one, but at the most 2 hits to take you down, and then you either have to reload your checkpoint, restart your chapter, basically go back and do something over again, and let's face it, nobody wants to do that. It's an option, it's there, it doesn't invalidate the achievement, but it's just a waste of time, it's frustrating, so just take your time as you're playing. You can see here I'm setting up a big net of overwatches, and I haven't advanced far enough to actually trigger the drones yet. So I'm going to have Gabe come up here, grab that case, and take cover. You see now I've activated the drones. So there's 3 drones who are going to be advancing. They're within that ring, the objective ring right now. And I've got Gabe in full cover. I've got Michaela in full cover inside that garage. And all we're going to do is wait for the enemies to make a move. Like I said, they're going to advance where Gabe and Michaela are. And then I'm going to send Sid and Marcella around the back side, kind of like Marcella's doing right now, and get them caught in a crossfire. Ideally, they'll hop over that barrier and be on the far side, so they're not able to get as good of angles on the enemies that are moving around. But, I'm sorry, the allies that are moving around. But no matter what happens at this point, because your allies are spread out, the enemies are going to be forced to spread themselves a little thinner, and the AI is going to try to cover as many avenues as possible. They are all focused on the garage where Michaela and Gabe are at the moment, but you can see instead of jumping over, if I had had Marcella on the near side of that barrier, then they probably all 3 of the enemies would have hopped over and I could have advanced a little easier. But because I didn't use a shot last turn with Marcella, Swift activated, and I got an extra skill point, or action point, I'm sorry. So I'm going to advance her as far as I can while using 2 action points. It's going to get me very close to them, and her frag is ready, so I'm going to use a frag and damage a couple of these drones right here. You can see I'm trying to maximize the damage output on the most number of drones, and I settle for about half damage on each drone with that grenade. A little less than half, maybe I'd say a third. And then I'm going to ghost so that way I don't end up getting attacked. That's one of the great things about the Scout is they have that cloak ability, and what that cloak ability is going to do is it's going to let you get in close, do a lot of damage, and then you don't need to worry about, you know, taking a shot. It'll keep you safe right up until your next turn, and then if you really need to, you have 3 turns to just run away. But now we're looking. I saw that we could use Gabe's chainsaw to take 1 enemy off the board. I'm going to use my last action point with Gabe to execute this enemy, and that's going to give everybody an additional action point, which is good. We like that. And now I can move Sid around the corner here and have enough action points to feel like I can get a good angle on that drone without being obstructed, and then use my retro charge to clean up that last enemy. There we go, and yes. Very satisfying. That drone is off the board. So now all enemies are gone. I can remove the obstruction, which is the dead van blocking the path. And we're not going to do that quite yet. You definitely could, if you had enough action points, go ahead and push the van out of the way. But I like to move my units up. I know there's no enemies, and I know it burns an extra turn. But because we're on Insane and I don't want my units to be separated, I'm going to move my units up so they're all together. And then from there, we'll move the van, and then we're going to move into this little, I don't know what you want to call it, this little fenced in or walled in area near the warehouse. And this is where the final... Oh, I don't want to say the final battle. This is where the last real difficult part is. This is where you're going to meet your snipers, your enemy snipers. You can see we got a checkpoint, which is good. If something happens and we mess up and one of our units dies, we can always reload checkpoint. But we're going to advance into this walled off area. We're going to be depending a lot on patience and Michaela's sniping to take the enemies out that are inside that building. And the reason I say that is because we don't want to go into the building and then try to fight these enemies in close quarters, because there's 2 grenadiers in there, and when it comes to close quarter combat, the grenadiers win. They win every time. The only time they don't win is when they're rampaging and you can hit them with the lancer or the retro lancer. So here we are, our nice little unskippable cutscene introducing the snipers. Ooh yeah, sniper drone. Long range threat, can pin your units. I already talked about that. That is not brand new information. So now we're going to wait. The enemy's going to do its turn. Like I said, we got 2 grenadiers who are going to kind of rush up, because that AI loves to use the grenadiers as tanks and just rush them right up through the middle of, you know, whatever. You run them right up through the middle of whatever is going on in the battlefield, tank any incoming damage, and then just shotgun your allied units right in the face. But we've got a plan. We've got 2 instant kill attacks in the Retro Lancer and the Lancer, so we're going to damage one of them using Michaela's sniping. What that'll do is it's going to increase his movement range and cause him to come further out, hopefully all the way out of the building, and then we'll be able to take him off the board using one of those insta-kill attacks. We have Marcella overwatching the door, the idea being that we'll hopefully be able to disrupt these enemies as they're coming out and keep them from advancing too far, because we want the Grenadier to come out, but we don't want him to come too far. And I'm going to move Sid over to the right-hand side, because there are quite a few enemies in that alleyway. And I actually end up regretting putting Sid there, because he's more exposed than I thought he would be in this opening. And you can see that, thankfully, that Grenadier got interrupted and pushed off to the side, because he was heading right for Sid and he would have been close enough to shoot him. So in retrospect, I would actually suggest keeping Sid back a little further until we have the Grenadiers taken off the board. But what is done, and the tactic worked. It did exactly what it was supposed to, and we interrupted that Grenadier as he advanced. I'm going to waste a grenade right here to take him off the board. And it seems like it might be a bit overkill, but I wasn't going to waste additional action points when I have 2 enemies that are pushing out the door right now, one of them being a Grenadier. We want to use our action points to stop them from moving out of that garage door looking thing. The reason that we don't want them getting out is because once they get out, they start spreading, and we have to change our focus of fire from one spot to multiple spots, which means our damage is going to be spread out and not as effective. And if you can be one thing, or I'm sorry, not as efficient, and if you can be one thing, be efficient. So you can see I'm trying to get a good angle on the drone behind the Grenadier with Michaela. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to actually enrage the Grenadier yet, because when they're enraged, they even are less likely to flinch from non-disrupt aided attacks. So you can see I got a good angle right there. There's no obstruction, and I managed to get a critical hit, which actually almost kills the rifle drone. And now we're going to see that Grenadier charge straight up. He's going to get right into all the overwatches. He does berserk, and unfortunately, he didn't go where he was supposed to go and get behind that corner like the other one did. So he ended up taking a shot at Sid, but thankfully Sid was able to dodge it, or he missed, however you want to say it. But that Grenadier is very close to dying. He has 225 health out of 1,500. I've got a grenade with his name on it. I'm trying really hard to get both kills, and I can just barely do it. So there, the drone and the Grenadier are off the board now. We've got 4 enemies remaining, and 3 of them are in this alleyway. So we're going to move Sid over, and at this point, we're going to start trying to do work against these guys. Thankfully, they don't... I'm sorry, did I say Sid? I meant Michaela. Thankfully, they don't advance very quickly. They kind of just stutter around in that alleyway. They may you can see one of the snipers actually came into the building, but it's not really all that difficult to take them out. The trickiest part is there's not a lot of cover in this alleyway, so you don't want to leave yourself exposed. You can see that I'm just on the edge of my ability to throw grenades up here, and that, I don't know if you saw it, but the path that grenade took actually bounced off a couple of pieces of cover, and that's something that the game doesn't really explain or point out. When you're throwing grenades, you can sometimes use the cover to your advantage and bounce your frag grenade off of the corner of something to get additional distance. You saw right there that my standard throw wasn't going to get my grenade as far as bouncing it off of the crate and then the dumpster, and it got it a little further, got it a little closer to the very middle of the two enemies and caused additional damage, which is great. Does it always work? Absolutely not. But it can work, and sometimes that can be the difference between getting a kill or just damaging your enemy. So keep your eyes open for those kind of opportunities. So we see the drone decided to move up, which is fine. Michaela's right there, gonna snipe him. Had a 90, I think it was a 94% hit chance, which is great. Not guaranteed, as we saw earlier, with a 98% chance missing, but still, 94 is really good. We're going to use Gabe's chainsaw ability to come up here, take this sniper off the board, and just make it a little easier to be able to get up and get that last sniper taken care of. We do have Rush active, or Chainsaw Rush, so Gabe gained one additional action point, and I was able to get him into full cover. And now I'm just trying to see, can I execute that downed enemy and get Sid an extra action point? Unfortunately, I can't. So instead, I'm trying desperately to figure this out because I want to close on that last sniper and end it on this turn. But I don't see it happening. So instead, I decide that, well, we're going to take this drone down so the sniper doesn't try to revive him using Sid. And then we're going to actually move Marcella and have her sort of fall back, because the next wave of enemies after we blow up the emulsion tanks that are in the warehouse, there's going to be, I think it's like 18 or 20 juvies that drop in, and they're going to be kind of where the objective, the original objective to move the out of commission van, they're going to end up there. So what we want to do is set ourselves up so we have as many units as possible with grenades ready to go. Ideally, all of them will have grenades ready to go, but you know, I've been using the grenades, and that's definitely okay. There's a very, very narrow choke point that the wretches are able to get through. So as long as you can get your allies or your units down to that gate and overwatch it, you're going to be fine. Using the grenades just speeds things up considerably. So you can see this last sniper is really giving us a hard time. He decided to fall way back here and make us chase him, burning even more turns. So we're at the point where we would need to complete this mission in 4 turns or less, and it's just not going to happen. But, you know, not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. We're definitely more focused on just getting the W, getting the win, and completing the mission than we are getting that side objective done. You can see the sniper. This is what I was talking about pinning our enemies or our allies. Yeah, okay, well, Gabe's pinned. That's unfortunate. But now I can literally walk right up to him, and I could have, you know, walked up to him point blank and shot him if I really wanted to. He wasn't going to do anything to me. So we're going to move Gabe back. I could have used Gabe to destroy those fuel tanks, but I wanted to use his maximum AP for movement to get him as close to the gate as possible. Sid was still right there with 2 AP left, so I decided to use Sid instead to blow up the tank. Does not matter who blows it up, just changes the character in your cutscene. End result is the same. Emulsion goes boom, and you're on to your next objective. So here we go. Now we're on to the very last part of this map. And you can see there are a lot of wretches there. And you're going to get a better visual of how many wretches there are. So we're going to move Michaela up. She has her frag grenade ready to go. And we're going to get her snugged right up to this fence here. And we're going to try to maximize the damage. I mean, look at all those wretches out there. So I think I get 5 with this grenade throw. Yep, there's 5 off the board. And the mission right now is to regroup at the extraction point. I didn't pay attention. I didn't notice that Marcella's grenade was still one turn away from being ready to use. Not a big deal though, because those wretches are all far enough away that they're not going to be able to get into this area. So we had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12. Oh, no, 13, 14, 15 wretches. Yeah, so we still got 10 on the board. I took out 5, so that's a total of 15 wretches you have to deal with. So it's not, I mean, it's not hard, but it can be intimidating. And if they manage to get inside the perimeter and get inside that gate, that's going to be difficult. So you really, really want to make sure that you are thinning out their numbers as much as possible using grenades. And then if your units can't be using grenades, overwatch this gate. That is the only way they can get in. So maximize the amount of shots you have on that gate to take out as many units as possible as they come in. You can see that's what I'm doing. I've got a lot of overlapping overwatch fields. Sid's still way back here watching the emulsion burn, so we're going to move him up. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to help us out with firepower this turn, but he'll be close enough next turn to help us out. So now we go through the enemy turn. See, well, there goes one wretch. So that brings us down to 6 left. And then these guys are all going to advance. The nice thing is the AI groups them all nice and close together because they're all heading to the same place. And there's, I'm pretty sure, only one AI for the wretches, so they're all going to think and act the same. If your units are all in one place, all the wretches are going to want to go to that one place. So that's what we're seeing happening right now. You can see I'm trying so hard to hit a 5 kill right there. Sweet spot. And boom, 5 more wretches gone with 1 grenade. That's efficient. If you can be anything, be efficient. Then we're going to move Marcella up and do our best to take out this last wretch. And you can see it's complete the mission. Up on the left-hand side there, it says complete the mission in 1 turn or less. So even though I was taking it slow, we were still very close to completing that side objective. If I had taken a few more risks, pushed a little further, a little harder, we could have had it done. But again, it's much, much, much more important to play it safe. If you're going for this Immortal Legion achievement, play it safe so you can get through your map, not have to backtrack and replay missions. It's still going to happen at some point. I mean, you're still going to end up, the AI is going to get the better of you. You're going to have a Boomer or a Theron guard who's going to get a lucky shot, even if you're doing everything right. So don't think that even if you're following this guide, that you'll do it without any deaths at all. I have died plenty of times. On my first time playing Insane, I died a lot. And don't feel bad. Like I said, if you need to use reload checkpoint, go ahead. It doesn't invalidate the achievement. If you accidentally complete a mission and you lost a unit, just restart act. Don't start your whole game over. There's an option in the menu to restart act. It's not going to invalidate the achievement. Just, again, take your time. Don't get frustrated. It's Gears. It's on Insane. It's notorious for being difficult. But trust me, you got this. So just finishing this up. We're trying to get to the extraction point. I knew Marcella wasn't going to be able to make it just with her movement point, so I used sprint. That got me close enough, and there we're done. So what I'll do is I will open up the cases that we got as rewards and show you what we get, and that'll be the end of the video. I really hope that you guys are finding this to be helpful. Please keep your eyes open. I'm going to be posting more chapters, more guides as time goes on. You can see everybody leveled up there, which is really nice. And I got a reset token, which is also nice. But like I said, keep your eyes open. Stick around. More guides are coming. And until then, take care of yourselves. And I will catch you later. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. You can also check us out on Twitch at Hammer Bros Gaming. I am Blades of God, and until next time, have a great day everyone.